The private wing of St. Aurelius Children's Hospital had never felt so heavy. It wasn't the quiet. Hospitals were always quiet in this wing, but the way the silence pressed down on everyone's shoulders, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Machines blinked in slow, indifferent rhythms. A heart monitor traced a flat, merciless line. 12 minutes. No one said the number out loud anymore, but it echoed in every mind. 12 minutes since the billionaire's newborn daughter had lost her pulse. 12 minutes since science had begun to lose its grip. Ethan Vale stood at the foot of the incubator, staring through the glass as though willing it to shatter. He had built an empire from nothing, negotiated with heads of state, bent markets with a phone call, but none of that mattered now. His suit jacket lay in a heap on the floor, his tie loosened, his hands shaking so badly he had to clench them just to stay upright. The baby looked impossibly small. Too small to be the center of so much power, so much fear. Tubes curved around her body, wires clung to her skin, and still, nothing. No rise of her chest. No flicker of life on the screen. "We've followed every protocol," the lead pediatric cardiologist said quietly, voice steady but strained. "We've administered epinephrine, ventilation, compressions. There's been no response." A nurse wiped her eyes and turned away. Ethan's voice came out hoarse. "Do it again." The doctor hesitated. "Mr. Vale, I don't care what the textbooks say," Ethan snapped, then faltered. His shoulders sagged. "Please, she's my daughter." The doctor met his gaze, compassion battling with reality. 12 minutes without a pulse causes catastrophic brain injury. Even if, Ethan said sharply. "You said it yourself. Even if." No one moved. The room filled with the sound of the flatline. Then the door creaked open. A nurse spun around. "This area is restricted." Her words died as she took in the figure standing there. A boy, no older than 10, hovered uncertainly in the doorway. His clothes were worn thin, his hoodie faded and fraying at the cuffs. His feet were bare, toes curled slightly against the cold tile. A hospital wristband slid down his thin wrist. "I'm sorry," he said softly, but he didn't step back. His eyes were fixed on the incubator. "Who let him in here?" one of the doctors muttered. The boy took a small step forward. "She's cold." The words cut through the room. "I beg your pardon," the cardiologist said. The boy swallowed. "Her chest. It's cold. She's still here, though." A nurse reached for him. "Sweetheart, you need to leave. Now." Ethan turned, irritation flashing across his grief-stricken face. "This isn't the time." But then he looked at the boy's eyes. They weren't wide with fear or curiosity. They were focused, certain. "What's your name?" Ethan asked despite himself. "Isaiah," the boy replied. "My mom cleans here. She's sick, so I stay close." Security had been called. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Isaiah's voice shook just a little. "Please, just give me a minute." A doctor scoffed. "This is absurd." Isaiah clenched his fists. "My little brother stopped breathing once. Everyone said he was gone. But my grandma, she showed me something." The security guard appeared in the doorway. "What's going on?" Ethan felt the room closing in, logic and despair tangling together. He looked at his daughter again. At the stillness. "What did she show you?" Ethan asked quietly. Isaiah met his eyes. How to remind a heart where it belongs. The cardiologist opened his mouth to protest. 2 minutes, Ethan said suddenly, his voice carrying a weight that silenced the room. "If nothing happens, you take him out." The guard hesitated. The doctors exchanged glances. No one wanted to be the one to argue with a man who had already lost everything in this room. Isaiah approached the incubator slowly, as if afraid of startling something fragile. He pressed his palm to the glass, closed his eyes, and began to hum. It wasn't a song anyone recognized. It was low and steady, vibrating softly, like a memory rather than a melody. The sound seemed to fill the space between breaths. "What is he doing?" someone whispered. Isaiah stopped humming and gently placed his hand on the baby's chest, exactly where her heart should be. "Hey," he whispered, "you gotta come back. Your dad needs you." The monitor remained flat. A second passed. Then another. Someone exhaled sharply in disappointment. Then, a flicker. A single blip on the screen. "That's interference," a doctor said quickly. Another blip followed. Stronger. The room froze. Check the leads, the cardiologist snapped. A nurse rushed forward, hands trembling as she verified every connection. They're secure. The line pulsed again. Slow, fragile, real. Isaiah's hum deepened, his brow furrowing with concentration. Tears slipped down his cheeks, but he didn't wipe them away. Stay, he murmured. Please stay. The heart rate crept upward. 20 beats per minute. 30, 40. No, someone whispered. Doctors surged forward, disbelief turning into frantic motion. Orders flew through the air. Oxygen was adjusted. Medication was prepared. The room erupted into controlled chaos. And yet, no one touched Isaiah. Ethan collapsed into a chair, his legs finally giving out. He pressed his hands over his mouth as a sob tore through him. He watched the monitor as numbers climbed, numbers he had already mourned. How is this happening? The cardiologist muttered, staring at the screen as though it might accuse him of madness. Isaiah slowly lifted his hand from the baby's chest. The heartbeat held, steady enough, strong enough. The room exhaled. The baby was rushed to stabilize, doctors moving with renewed urgency and awe. Someone laughed shakily. Someone else cried openly. Isaiah stood there, suddenly looking very small and very tired. Ethan stood and crossed the room in a few unsteady steps. He knelt in front of the boy, ignoring the cold floor. You saved her, he said, his voice breaking. Isaiah shook his head. No, she just remembered how. Later, when the baby slept under careful watch, the hallway outside the room was quiet again, but it felt different now. Softer, lighter. The cardiologist approached Ethan, rubbing his temples. We've run every test. There is no medical explanation for what happened. None. Isaiah shrugged from his seat on a bench. My grandma said hearts get lost sometimes. They just need a voice they trust. Ethan looked at the boy, really looked at him, and felt something inside his chest shift. He knelt again. What do you want? He asked. Anything. Isaiah thought for a long moment. My mom needs medicine. And, maybe shoes. Ethan let out a breath that was half laugh, half sob. You'll have that, and more. Isaiah shook his head gently. Just the medicine and the shoes. Ethan nodded, swallowing hard, understanding at last that miracles didn't ask for riches in return. By morning, the story had already begun to spread. Whispers of the impossible, of doctors frozen in disbelief, of a heartbeat returning after 12 minutes of silence. But Ethan would remember it simply. A room full of science that had reached its limit. And a boy with nothing but faith, a humming voice, and the courage to believe a tiny heart could still find its way home.